Let's move on now to another hint, this one from Psalm 45, which is cited also in the book of Hebrews. Now, according to verse 1, Psalm 45 was written by the sons of Korah. And it says in the second and third verses in the Tanakh that the author was moved in his heart to tell his poetic works to the king. And based on later verses, we know that this king is the Messianic king, King David, or at least one in the Messianic line of kings. And in verses 7 and 8, the psalmist says this to the king: "Your throne, O God, is forever." Again, the eternal throne being a common reference to Messiah. "A scepter of uprightness is the scepter of your kingdom. You have loved righteousness and hated wickedness. Therefore God, your God, has anointed you with the oil of joy above your companions." So what we see here is a psalm written and referring to the Messianic king, the Messiah, in which the psalmist then calls the king God. And he says to the king, "Your throne, O God, is forever." Now, how do we know that he's saying this to the king and not to God himself? Because the author then says to the king, "Therefore God, your God, has anointed you." So if these verses were written to God, and the throne is God's throne, then who does the author mean by your God? Does God have a God? Of course not. But the king does. So it's the king's throne, the Messiah's throne, that will last forever, and he's been anointed by his God. So if the throne referred to here belongs to the king, the Messiah, then the psalmist is calling the Messiah God. And of course, according to Hebrews chapter 1, verse 8, this psalm is directly ascribed to Yeshua, where it says, "But to the Son he says, 'Your throne, O God, is to the age of the age.'" Unfortunately, the JPS has once again tried to change the plain reading of the text, possibly to obscure another allusion to Yeshua, because there's really no wiggle room with the Hebrew. The 1917 JPS says here, "Thy throne given of God is forever and ever." And the 1985 JPS says, "Your divine throne is everlasting." But the Hebrew here is just the words, "Kisacha Elohim olam va'ed," your throne, God, forever and ever. There's no word here in the text to warrant the idea of the throne being given, nor does the text indicate, much less demand, that God can be translated as divine, making it an adjective simply describing the Messiah's throne. The Hebrew's just not there. The plain and obvious translation then is, "Your throne, O God, is forever and ever." And because the explicit object of the psalm isn't God, but the king, the psalm is saying that the Messianic king, the Messiah, is God.